Greetings, one and all. It's Dr. Jonathan Ellerby with another live 12 at 12. I'm a minute late here because for some reason when I loaded up my camera on the horizontal today, it was like a fisheye and I couldn't get it to go away. Now, obviously Facebook isn't perfect and well, none of us are either. So today's topic is stillness, solitude, and being alone. And really exploring the question, are these things all the same, or is there a difference? And if so, how do we make the difference? How do we create an intentional difference? And how do we identify the difference between all these things? A lot of people today are spending a lot of time alone. In fact, even people that are in homes with other people are spending a lot more time alone. So we're going to look at that in just a minute. Of course, if you want to know more about who I am, you can look up jonathanellerby.com. There's a bio and info about my books and all kinds of new stuff that I'm doing, including a free giveaway of one of my newest book, which will be posted shortly. So with that, let's take a deep breath together. Thank you for joining me, whether it's now or later. And let's slow down. So, eyes closed. Drawing in through the nose, imagining it traveling down into your belly, and then a long, slow exhale. Just really, really push that exhale out to the extreme. And then again, deeply in through the nose, but soft and gently, and then out, long and slowly. Feeling the full extent of the exhale, as though you were purifying yourself, emptying yourself of thought and distraction, any of the chaos or busyness of your mind, your inner world, or your life, and then restoring it with a sense of vitality and breath. And let's just take a quiet moment like that. Pay attention to the experience of stillness. Pay attention to the experience of quiet and stillness inside yourself. And then we take the words of David White, like a blessing, like a prayer, into the mind, through the heart and down into the memory of the soul. This is called open. It is a small step to remember how life led to this moment's hesitation, how the door to the deeper world opens, letting the body fall at last toward the few griefs it can call its own. Oh yes, I know, our wings catch fire in that downward flight, and we come to earth afraid that we can never fly again. But then we always knew heaven would be a desperate place, everything you desired coming in one fearful moment to greet you. Your full presence only in rest, and the love that asks nothing. The rest where you lie down and are no longer found at all. The rest where you lie down and are no longer found at all. Now that really speaks to the essence of stillness and solitude and being alone. So, it's interesting. This week, on the Thursday past, I led a retreat for a small group of people, and it was an exploration of solitude at home. And a lot of people said, I don't think I'm going to sign up for that because I'm already at home alone all the time. Why would I want to sign up to do more of the same? I mean, isn't being alone solitude? Isn't the lack of busyness in my life stillness? And the answer, of course, I hope you already know, is no. These two things are nothing alike at all. Being lonely, being alone, and being in solitude are three entirely different experiences of what might look like the same physical condition, not having other people around. But the absence of something is not necessarily the same as the presence of something. So I could reserve cruelty, not be mean, not be hateful to someone. That's good, but that's not the same as kindness. It's not the same as compassion or love or affection. In the same way, being alone is not the same as solitude. When we talk about stillness and silence and deep retreat, we're talking about a relationship to being alone. In fact, in most traditions, the concept of solitude is not really about being alone at all. It's about recognizing that when we are the only person in our contemplation, our ritual, our sacred circle, that we are actually creating an opening for an experience of fullness, an experience of presence. And so to wander around the house alone, cleaning, snacking, working on the computer, playing on the computer, watching video games or playing video games, whatever you can come up with digitally, going for walks, all of that can be a kind of busyness. And not only can that be a kind of busyness, but it's the sort of distraction that can often exacerbate the feeling of isolation and loneliness. But isolation and loneliness are really internal experiences. Isolation comes from the mental construct that we are not connected when we are alone, that we are not a part of the universe, that we are not intimately interconnected with the souls, the spirits, the hearts, the minds of all beings everywhere. Isolation is an emotional reaction. Isolation is an emotional response that we translate into a mental evaluation, and we say, I can't stand this. I can't stand being isolated. Typically, that kind of feeling arises not only from personality, but more than anything else out of conditioning. If we have been abandoned, or if we have experienced the pain of being alone, left alone by people we love or need to look after us, then absolutely being alone is going to trigger that memory, that feeling, that unconscious relationship, and we will see being alone as a loss of freedom, as a loss of connection, as isolation. But when you move from your conditional mind through the essence that is your true self and simply into the silent, observing center, then isolation turns to solitude. And being alone turns to being at one. I remember a long time ago when I was a kid, actually, I was reading a book by a great animal writer, Sam Campbell. And Sam Campbell used to tell stories about his cottage on this lake in a wilderness preserve, and the porcupines and the birds and the squirrels that lived around his property, and the deer, all these different characters. And I'll never forget, I was just a young teenager. And he wrote about this one afternoon where he went out alone in the canoe. And he talked about how, as he went towards the sunset, the canoe gliding over the golden light on the dark water, the way he had that precious moment that he so cherished. in which he could feel in his bones, in his heart, in every fiber of his being, that in truth, being alone is actually the moment where we can remember that we are all one. And he kind of played with the italics of the word alone and all one. Remarkably, almost the same word, but depending on the lens you look through, your impatience, your expectation, your clinging to the way you want things to be, alone can turn to lonely, or it can turn to a deep experience of connection, the feeling of being all one. So, we're coming close to the end of our time, but a few more thoughts before we go. If you want to transform the neutral experience of being alone into an experience of solitude, stillness, and sacred retreat, as opposed to loneliness, isolation, and the feeling of disconnection, then it requires intention. It requires that we invite ourselves to experience, to experiment with a deeper, quieter awareness that lives within us. And yes, even in the middle of weeks and weeks of being more alone or totally alone, we can choose to carve out an hour, an afternoon, a day, even days, where we choose to embrace the fullness of solitude. What that means is, one, we treat it like a ritual. We treat it like sacred time. We make a plan, a commitment. What does it involve? Not speaking, a simplified diet. It must absolutely involve not being on devices, digital devices. Maybe you're going to use it for a guided meditation to get started. Okay. Maybe you're going to listen to this again just as a little warm-up. Okay. But at a certain point, solitude is about reducing what we are in relationship to until in the consciousness of stillness, silence, and emptiness, it is only the soul that arises. And through that natural sense of self, that natural intuition, that surrendered attitude, that we actually find that everything around us is radiant with energy and life. Existence itself speaks to us. Stillness itself feels like love and belonging. But it's the kind of practice that you just can't really talk about or intellectualize. It's something you simply have to do for yourself. So you carve out the time. You make it like a ritual, a ceremony, a beginning, an end, an intention about what happens inside and what doesn't. Ideally, you're also going to limit your space. So you're not wandering all over your place, but you pick a room. You pick a setting. You build a kind of altar, a sacred focal point. So you treat it like a ritual. You choose a specific space. You create an anchoring, a centering, a place that holds everything that's important for you for when you're distracted. You consciously disconnect from distractions. So technology, talking to other people, and so on. And then to allow the true self, the essential self, the soul to blossom, you go beyond it. And you start simply with silence, listening to stillness, observing what arises, and you keep your heart and mind open to the possibility that the emptiest moments are the most full, and the most isolated moments are actually your chance to be more connected to life and spirit itself than you've ever been in your whole life. I think we're out of time. So I'm going to invite you to explore some of the other videos. If you like this, share it. And of course, go online to my website, see what kind of stuff we've got going on, free stuff and other things coming up. Also, if you're interested in a Sunday gathering, something more like a longer dive into spirituality and awareness, join the Althea Center Denver on the Althea Center Denver Facebook page. We'll be doing that live tomorrow, and we have a really cool Earth Day message and experience coming up on the 26th. With that, let's take a last breath together. Let's close our eyes, and I have another David White to help nurture this contemplation of stillness, solitude, isolation, and connection. We shall not be here. Heaven has been promised in great detail. Beyond this silence, we shall not be here to find it. And that, my friend, is a great joy. So, thank you for joining me. And if that poem means nothing to you, then it's time to experience the beauty of solitude and retreat and the fullness of being truly, truly alone. All right. I love you all. Take care. We'll see you soon.